Hello. Hello, everyone. This is a talk on developer experience. And my name is Anastasia, as I said. I work at Intento as a web developer. And at Intento, we create our own API on top of hundreds of other artificial intelligence API. And we are creating a new developer experience for those developers who are interested in using artificial intelligence services. And it is a tricky thing to create a good developer experience. So what is it? It's almost like user experience, but also with developer approach, developer practices, and techniques. There is a super simplified way to see how things are done. So you create a product, you deliver it to a user. But we can see this same thing from a little bit different point of view. Every product is created in some environment, on top of some platform, like mobile application is created in iOS ecosystem or Android ecosystem. And here is the place where developers are working. So we will be talking here today about this process. Developer or any user working in some environment has expectation of that environment. And when expectation meet reality, there is an experience. It's supposed that platform owners care about end users. So I'd say that they should care about developers too. Because it's already a known thing that great products come from developers that love what they do. So we are talking about this kind of love today. Another well-known thing that everything is okay for you for a while isn't noticed for you. Like for now you can breathe and it's free. And nobody is going to tweet about it with passion right now, right? So the same thing with JavaScript, for example. It's so usual for you that you can do things around source code that you even forget about how comfortable it is. So there are examples of good developer experience, like open source code, debugging tools. Our browsers have great tools, and you use it every day and probably forget how much pain it will be without them. And interactive stack trace from your favorite framework in development mode, for example, and stuff like that. But usually you notice things that annoys you. For example, you know all these things. You notice them when you feel unhappy, feel tired, feel maybe angry. It's very usual and it's not pleasant. So if something is perceived as unpleasant, it's probably bad developer experience. Or maybe you didn't sleep well. And we encountered with a few examples of really strange experience. For example, when you're trying to register somewhere, they require to verify your account with some local bank card, like with those postcards in Belarus, you need to pay from Belarusian bank card. Or you need to, or they ask you to verify your account with phone number and accept only phone numbers from certain countries. Or the leader of our list is a requirement to sign an NDA just to read some spec. So it's like README file. You need to give some blood tests before you can read README file. It's weird, right? So If it annoys you, then it slows you down. And if it slows you down, it slows the progress. And when I'm talking about the progress, I don't mean only how fast you deliver your next new feature to a user, but also about things then can you do, achieve, create during a certain period of time. And not only personally, but as a part of team, family, nation, or humanity. So it's so, in this way, why wouldn't we improve something around it? And you can see yourself in one of two positions. First one is when you consume some interface. And second one, when you produce some interface, create something. And for those two states, I'll show you two checklists, two recipes to go with, which may help you improve the developer experience, your developer experience or developer experience of your users. So they may help you or may not, but probably they're a good point to start with, some discussion on how to do this right. So about choosing right thing when you are a consumer. You measure something, you predict how this will be perceived by you in the future, pick some option, start using it, get more insights, and measure again, maybe changing your options. Intuitively, you're already doing this, maybe intuitively, like, oh, okay, this framework has very nice getting started guide, it's nicer than the other one, I'll start with it. And after a couple of days, you realize that that framework is clashing, its dependencies clashing with dependencies of other part of your stack, with other part of your system. So you change your opinion about this framework and do something else. So, but if you perform it right, you can enjoy the results. And other option, when you create something. Actually, you always create something. Right after you consume something as a developer, you give something else. And the question is, will you go further with giving this creation of yours to your colleagues, to your to future yourself, or to the world, like open sourcing something? So if you are going or willing to do this, probably you will need a plan. And the plan is similar. Very good thing before creating something is to make some research and see if someone needs the stuff you are creating. So again, measure, come up with some solution, implement it, give it to the world. Very important step, listen to the feedback, measure how it lowers the user's pain or not. Again, measures things that you measured on previous step, and probably update the implementation, and rinse and repeat, and finally get profit, probably. Example, you have some service, site application, and it needs a map. These are a couple of services that provide maps. Probably you didn't need them all, because you need some simple features when you're starting. Like you need to put some map inside your site, map should be zoomable, clickable, and stuff like that. You pick some options, time goes, your service is quite popular, you have a big audience, and probably your site even go viral, and suddenly you hit some quote limits, because in the previous step you pick some basic option, maybe it's free, and now users loads those map service very often, and you have some problems with it. You start paying for it. You change maybe your plan, you start paying for it. Suddenly you are interested in the features of the map service, map API, related to payments. And another thing, your users probably click the site, your site constantly, and so they use that map service constantly, and they start noticing some errors. So you need some information about these errors, probably when you need information about when map service is unavailable, and you need the ability to talk to some support from that map service. Suppose you solved all those issues and your audience continue to grow, and they need more features. They use your service from different devices, from different countries, from different languages, and you need more and more features from initial service that you picked up in the beginning. Now, probably you're doing it not by yourself, but with a team. So you need to educate your team, and you would be glad if that map service had some documentation detailed, some sandboxes to try the API. And other part of your team, dealing with development operations, for example, they need some another interface from map service with features when they can explore errors, predict when a map service will be unavailable, and stuff around that. So finally, not each map service probably provide you all those features. What is in the world of artificial intelligence API services? Do you remember this picture, right? So you change point of view. You remember that product is always created on top of something else. And in the world of services, there is more links, more layers. You need to connect a lot of platforms, a lot of APIs to each other to build a long, meaningful chain that give you a service that you need to do. And still, platforms, a lot of platforms and services. What am I talking about? For example, we have a person, and their job is to translate text in special domain, and they use a piece of software. It's like IDE, but CAT. This piece of software is supported by some vendor with some cloud services, and this vendor uses some other services with machine translation. These services with machine translation need some models, neurolinguistic models trained for this specific domain of texts. So they depend on another layer of services, and all of it probably is hosted somewhere in the clouds, and this is another layer, and these servers with clouds are placed somewhere in the internet, so they need internet all over the planet, and they need electricity all over the planet, and so there are a lot of layers, but we will focus on layers where developers are involved very much. Yes, and still to connect two layers, each two layers, you need a person, developer. Again, a little bit more details about translation services, machine translation services. We are, as I said, we're creating artificial intelligence API on top of several API services, and among them are translation services. So before we start doing this, we research what our users would usually do. And there is, all of these are machine translation providers. And they are very different in features that they provide you. And to translate, to get the best possible translation between 10 most popular languages, one need to connect to 8 of them, or 9, something like that. So you need to connect to 8 different API services. It's a pain for a user, for a company who are not their professional interest is not in the development. They just want to translate something. So to provide the best solution for them, we measured all these providers. We come up with around 70 features, and we combine them into 8 groups. These are 8 groups. I'll tell you more details about them a little bit later. And they all together, they give us more or less whole picture of a provider. So we measured each of 70 features, get numbers, and for each group, each of 8 groups, we get the sum number, and we draw a portrait for providers. So this is a canvas, this is a radial chart. On the radii are those 8 groups. So this is a portrait of Google machine translation. It means if this loop is white, that it means that the provider is good on these directions. This is a portrait of Yandex machine translation, and this is a portrait of some niche machine translation service. It's kind of close to 0, but on the product vertical dimension, it's a little bit better than previous two. So this gives us some detailed and quick way to understand how good or bad is a particular provider. So by product features in the field of machine translation, I mean features connected to text and languages, like ability to translate HTML formatted text or ability to detect language. And this group is very specific for a domain. So for map services, those features will be completely different. Commercial group of features is quite common, so it relates to free trial, for example, and if you already use the service for a long time, it's very crucial to have some information on how you pay for this service. And another group of features is reliability. It's all about features that are not undocumented, and those features you can observe only by using a service for a while. So those are how often it fails, how good it performs, some information about errors, and some limitation about how many requests per second it can work with. So other groups are in the article that we wrote some time ago, if you are interested in. The question is it a full list? Is it really give us the whole picture about a service? Probably not, and if you would do it by yourself, you would come up with another features, but in general, I'd say that this is kind of full list, and I'll show you why I think so. Let's see all of this from the perspective of the environment of the team of your organization. In your team, on your organization, you have those roles. Maybe behind these roles are persons, and maybe behind each role is a team, like a DevOps team, testing team, and like that. And we find a match between this developer experience features and team roles. List of roles, list of features. So list of roles can be not full too. This is again, this is specific for your organization. Probably for you, it's not. Some of them it's not important, and probably for you, some of roles are missing. Just an example. So product person in your team are very much interested in product features of the service, of course. And finance team is very much interested on how much money you can spend while using the service. And for example, why there is a link between finance and API design, because service API can be designed in a way that it provides automatic reports on how you spend the money. So it's would be interesting feature for finance. I'm not sure that a sales team would be interested in the API service. It's like use popular, famous stuff, and we will be okay with that. DevOps team, sure they need to know how to deal with errors. It's heavily connected to maintenance group, and of course, reliability, how often the service is uptime. Analytics, business analytics, they'd like to predict some business-related stuff, so they need to know what service actually do and how it really works. QA or testing team would be very much interested in documentation, and again, reliability and maintenance. And support, it is support of your product. I think that team would be glad if they know nothing about the API service. So they would be glad if that service was super reliable and they forgot about it. The security team would like to know, I think, how can the service can be hacked. So and these features are not listed in documentation usually, so they are interested in other stuff. And development team probably are most interested team. They connected almost with everything. So in general, it looks like that. What does it mean? It means that there are no abandoned roles and no abandoned feature groups. And this is kind of explanation why this list is full enough. So how it connected with good or bad developer experience. So I'll use some template. So this will be a short list, some missing stuff of the feature group. And on the other side, would be some explanation of how it's connected with developer experience, with your experience. So let's start. If we have some incomplete list of product features, like API accepts only strings and does not accept list of strings, it means that you need to implement this on your own. If API design is strange, it's strange. So this is some non-standard features or some entangled explanations how to create a request. So again, you spend more time with getting familiar with it, probably do a lot extra work. It again eats your time, would eat your time. If documentation is weak, so you have to deal with strange error messages, some unknown features. Again, it will be a problem with debugging for you, and probably you probably you have to create some your own environment to run experiments in. Entry barrier. So it means it's not so easy to start working with it, or it's easy to start working, but it's crazy to continue. So I think it's familiar. Commercial conditions. It's not so usual to think about it, but again, if you need to register and confirm your account with some bank card or phone number, it can be a barrier, or it can be just too expensive. So the problems with that it requires a lot of money from you. If implementation is strange, so documentation may be nice, but implementation can be suspicious. Yes, it again requires from you more time to get familiar with it, and probably add some adapters for the API. If maintenance is not good, so it's sudden changes in the service, no plans about fixing some bugs. It means for example, you can stuck with some old version because you are too scared to go to the next version. And unreliable service. It means that there are sudden outages, sudden errors with strange messages. It means that you will be forced to fix those messages, those errors in your service, and it would be unexpected from you, and you would be you have to switch your context more often, and for example. So, is it really far from a usual work of front-end developer or not? So you can forget about artificial intelligence part, about API part, and see it only as service something. You can still use this kind of approach to measure, is it good or bad for you? And you can measure it not constantly, but from time to time, and change your attitude to it. So, but you can still remember about API and AI, because future is here, but it's distributed unevenly, and sometimes it's very expensive, but still, as I think the artificial intelligence services come closer and closer to us, and it's not a danger about taking our work, but we can profit from it by delegating some boring stuff to it. So, and I hope I hope you are interested in stuff related to machine learning and artificial intelligence, and continue with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. So, bad designed API is always very painful. And my question is, what is good designed API for you personally?
Personally, I would say it is nice when it has standard description, like OpenAPI specification. Yes, it's kind of easy to create OpenAPI description of your service endpoints, but it's not a priority for business, of course, and it's so it would be if in ideal world it would be a world of API services described in a standard way.
And my second question, is about business exactly. So when we sell some product, the end users vote for it with their money. And when we make an API product, how can developers vote for it? Maybe inside a company.
Sorry, what can developers do?
When we sell a product, we earn money for it. So the end users vote for this product with their money.
How can developers vote? I think it's a good question. How can developers
think
vote?
about it.
So if it's the world, if it's some open source API service, developer can vote like by stars, adding some stars on GitHub. But it's in a chain of businesses. Developers can describe to their product owners why this or that service that they can use in their everyday work is better than other service. Like, for example, in the world of development operations, there are services that monitor your uptime. So the DevOps person can choose between those services that monitor and force the business person, tells the business person which one is better. And the decision the DevOps person would make, it is based on those list of about how the service design, how well the design is, how expensive is it, and how reliable it. Are there information about other service level agreements and stuff like that? So when choosing a service, you can vote for the better.
Thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you.